So I want to start by telling you a little story. So a few years ago, I was home alone and I drew myself a bath. Filled the tub with nice warm water, eased myself in, and was relaxed and happy. And then I heard the garage door and my husband came home. And he came upstairs, saw me in the bath, and decided to get into the tub with me. So, of course, what I had to do was let some of the water out in order to make space for him. But it was fine letting go of that extra volume of warm water because he filled that space. He took up that volume. And then eventually he tired of the bath before I did, and so he got out. And then I was left in a bath that instead of being full, only had a few inches of tepid water in it. And it was cold and my body felt heavy. You know, I could feel that extra weight of my body on the cold porcelain floor of the tub. And it wasn't comfortable anymore. It wasn't supportive. And I had two choices at that point. I could either stay in that tub with the limited water and the cold porcelain, or I could turn on the tap again and replace the volume that had left with something new. Well, that's how it is after divorce, isn't it? Because when we allow somebody new into our lives, we have to make space for them. And it feels fine. It's okay letting go of some things because we're making room for something hopefully better. But then when they leave, we're left with that void, that emptiness, and it feels wrong. It's an alien feeling, a cold feeling. And you can stay there, and you can bemoan the emptiness. Or you can turn on that tap and again fill that void with something good. So a big part of loneliness after divorce is feeling that void, is feeling that emptiness. And so a lot of times we focus our efforts on trying to fill that void. And sometimes we do things that are effective, and sometimes we turn towards things that maybe aren't the best for us. So I'm going to start by telling you some of the common ways that people try to fill the void that are only going to hurt you in the long run. So sometimes people try to fill the void and address the loneliness through their stomachs, through food. And it makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, at its core, food is a way of nurturing yourself. It's a way of saying, I'm worthy. But I don't need to tell you that it has its downsides too. Not only may it not be healthy for you, especially in the long run, but a donut is never going to take the place of a loving partner. It just can't. Even a really good donut. Other people turn towards substances, whether it be alcohol or drugs. And they have the sense that it's going to fill the void. But really what it does is it just makes you numb to the void. You're still lonely. You just may not feel the loneliness or care about the loneliness in the same way. Again, not a good way to fix it. Others, in an attempt to build their confidence, will turn towards shopping. Compulsively spending money in a way to distract, but also, again, to kind of say, hey, I'm here, I'm important, I matter. But not only can it bankrupt you, it's not really going to help you in the long run either. Some turn towards dating. That was definitely one way that I tried to fill the void in those early months. But dating, it's a good distraction. That's one of the benefits. And it can also give you attention and validation. And it fills your calendar, it fills your days so that you're not sitting at home alone thinking about what you've lost and how lonely you are. So it's all good in those areas. But the problem comes when we expect too much from dating, or actually too much from our dates. We expect them to be able to take the place of the partner that we lost. But like I said in a previous video, that it's not possible. Somebody who's new to you, you simply cannot have the same sort of intimacy that you did with a long-term partner. The only way to build that kind of relationship is with time. And then finally, another common way that people attempt to fill the void is through distracting themselves with media. Think about how many times have you, put Netflix on and hours have gone by before you realize that you've barely moved, or you get lost in the YouTube rabbit hole, only to realize that, I wasn't aware that, I'm sitting at home alone on a Friday night. And again, it's got some of its good things. It can fill the time. It's definitely a helpful distraction to have at some points, especially on those really hard days. But you want to be careful that you don't spend too much time there, because you're not really filling the void. You're just looking the other direction. Okay, so those are the ways not to fill the void after divorce. You're like, great, you just took away all my tools in my toolkit. What do I do now? Well, I'm going to give you some ideas. So a huge part of loneliness is feeling like you're invisible, feeling like you don't matter. So what I want you to do is look at your life and figure out that one area where you do matter right now. For me, it was work. For you, it might be being a parent. Maybe it's being a sibling. It doesn't matter what it is, but locate that one thing that gives you purpose and really put some energy into that right now. Just dive on in, because that's going to be one of those areas where you don't feel invisible. You feel like you're important. You feel like you matter. And that goes a long, long way to filling that void and to helping you feel like you're not so alone. Another thing that you can do is find some strength through movement. Yeah, it's just code for exercise, I know. But it doesn't matter what kind of exercise you do. The goal does not have to be physical. The thing is part of that void is because we feel powerless. Again, think of that body in the tub with all the warm water removed. You feel heavy. Well, what can you do? You can move. You can find that strength again. And that's one of those things that movement allows you to do, is build your confidence in yourself again. So start moving somehow, some way. Whatever it is, though, make a habit of it. Do it every day. Okay, so you have that thing that makes you feel like you've got purpose, work, parenting, whatever that might be. I also want you to find that thing that makes you feel alive. And for some of you, it may be the same thing. Maybe your passion is your work or is your children. For others of you, though, that might be something different. Maybe it's something artistic in nature. Maybe it's gardening. For a lot of people, it's creating something in some way. But that's where you can reinvigorate your passion. And here's the thing with those moments when we can get into that flow state. We don't feel lonely in those moments because we're truly okay with ourselves. We're in touch with who we are. And if you can be okay with yourself, well, then you're never lonely, are you? There's that famous quote, "We rise by lifting others." And it's true. When you're feeling that void, when you're feeling alone, one of the best ways to address that is to search out others in need of help, whatever kind of help that may be, and reach out to them. And a couple things happen. One, you become focused on helping them, and so you don't You no longer think of what you're missing, what your own losses are. But the other piece of it is when you're helping somebody else, that's a meaningful connection, isn't it? That's not superficial. And those are the connections that really make us feel like we matter. So after divorce, that void is inevitable. You've lost something big in your life, something that took up a lot of space. And so what you need to do now is intentionally and deliberately select what is going to fill that space for you again. The void is there, but it doesn't have to stay there.